You thought I was done? Hey number ones, welcome back to my channel and to the 35th episode of Yasuke versus the Metatron. So today, however, even though I'm still talking about Assassin's Creed Odyssey, I'm actually not talking about Yasuke. We are focusing on the second playable character, Naoe. I think there is a lot we can say about her, and in fact I found something out that might blow your mind. As always, as you know, what I'm doing here is just to present the evidence-based facts without getting involved into the culture wars, which unfortunately has clearly infected not only this game, but a lot of the entertainment that in our day and age we consume. With people on the extreme ends of both sides taking everything personal and starting to bite each other's heads off. But what I do on this channel is I just review the facts and see, okay, but this statement, this side is right, this statement, now this side was right, and this one, they're both fucking wrong. And I personally find it so entertaining to see how things unfold because of that, because lately I've been called woke, alt-right pipeline, left-wing troll, and far-right grifter. Talking about multitasking. Man, I've got it all. It's like a personal collection to me now. All of these titles. It's incredible, incredible. I'm so glad that the majority of you, whether you be left-leaning or right-leaning or centrists, are reasonable people that you can just have a civil discussion with and don't just start screaming like freaking man-children, like some of the Neanderthal specimen that actually have left comments in my comments. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Yes, you. You watching this, whether you agree with me or not, I appreciate that you're being an adult about it. Thank you for that. You're becoming rarer and rarer these days. As I was watching the trailer of the new Assassin's Creed Shadows, one of the things I noticed about Naoe is that there are a few inconsistencies that I think should be brought to light. First and foremost, we see that she is the stealthy side of this game, so she's clearly a woman ninja, also known as a kunoichi. Now, kunoichi are historical. We know they exist. There isn't much information about them, unfortunately. It's not like we've got plenty of, like a million scrolls and books and data that tells us exactly what a kunoichi was supposed to do, how they were trained, how often they were used, how common they were, which daimyos used more kunoichi. We don't know any of that because guess what? It's espionage. That's what a shinobi is anyways, so it's not like they're gonna write it everywhere for people to find all the information about their freaking spies. With that being said, some of the things we know is that kunoichi are not mentioned as being trained in combat. Now, is it possible that there may have been an actual kunoichi who was, for example, the daughter of a warrior and she had received training in combat? Yes, it's possible. In fact, I would say it's even believable if we consider it to be a really small percentage. But the idea that every ninja and every kunoichi or shinobi would be absolutely trained in combat is wrong, also because it's connected to this misconception that all ninja were assassins. They were not trained assassins. A ninja, a shinobi, a kunoichi are espionage. But however you want to look at it, if we are in Feudal Japan and you are indeed a kunoichi, how are you wearing a sword on your back in the middle of the village and you're walking with it? I mean, that would give it all away. You would get all the attention possible from everyone, from the peasants, from like, never mind the little child looking at Yasuke. Sure, I mean, he would stand out as a tall black man in freaking 15th, 16th century Japan, but still, a woman wearing a sword on her back, walking around with a hood on her head? Oh gosh, I don't know, it's like who stands out the most? The black man or the woman kunoichi? Anyways, another thing I noticed about Naoe, I don't know if you noticed this, but Naoe is a male's name. It's a man's name. I don't know if they did this on purpose. By the way, this isn't just a name that you never hear in the historical record, it's specifically the name of a samurai. Kanetsugu, specifically, so Kanetsugu Naoe is a relatively famous samurai of historical Japan, a man. So, you have a kunoichi, who is a woman who has the name of a male samurai, of a man who was a samurai. I don't know, it's a little confusing. Regardless of that, whether it was done on purpose or not, there is something that I noticed from the team itself. They interviewed the creators of Assassin's Creed, the people behind this whole situation that generated all of this rage, and the stuff they said, prepared for cringe.
As always for Assassin's Creed game, we try to pick a setting that is a pivotal moment in history, a period that can allow plenty also of gameplay opportunity.
For the first time since 2015 Syndicate, this year's Assassin's Creed will feature 2 playable protagonists. Tapping into the culture of 16th century Japan, Shadow's leads represent 2 very different warrior traditions: the strong, noble samurai and the swift, agile shinobi.
Okay, so this already is problematic because they are talking about 2 different warrior traditions. So the stealthy ninja or the strong samurai, and this is already a misconception. The idea that the samurai and the ninja are 2 separate warrior traditions is nonsense. We know for a fact that some of the most famous ninja in history were also samurai, and what's most important to understand, I know it's weird, but that's how it is, the line of division between the 2 strong opposing factions, the ninja and the samurai, is nonsense, and it was created by both Hollywood and the video game industry. The reality is that the lines historically are a lot more blurry, and oftentimes it's very difficult to know, yeah, this person is samurai, but is he also a ninja? This is how the reality is. Also because, most importantly, a samurai is a social class, it's a rank, a ninja is a job. Let's see if they keep propagating this myth, or if maybe one of the historians is going to explain it right.
In Assassin's Creed Shadows, we really try to focus on having our 2 playstyles on 2 different characters with 2 different storylines.
We do have Naoe as the imagined daughter of a real historical figure, Fujibayashi Nagato, who is her dad and who teaches her shinobi skills. She is a shinobi and she fights like the daughter of somebody who knows exactly what he's doing. Also in the values, and to exemplify that family's values of valor, benevolence, and wisdom.
Yeah, also this idea, I mean, I appreciate that at least they do have the father teaching the daughter, which was what I said before watching this, so that's cool, but it's kind of weird that it's definitely romanticized. So the fact that they're saying historical, historian, but it's very romanticized because a spy in feudal Japan, it wasn't about benevolence and wisdom, it was about getting information from your opponent clan, and if they needed to get their hands dirty, they will. But still, it's a game, it's fiction, so that's okay, but I would like the talking heads, particularly the historians, to kind of tell us a little bit about the reality of being a shinobi and the reality of being a samurai in feudal Japan right now. Otherwise, what's the point of having the historians?
With our dual protagonists, we have 2 fantasy, the samurai and the shinobi. We want the player to experience both, and we cannot squeeze both fantasy into one character because samurai and shinobi came from a different social class. They have different lives, so we cannot really mix them together.
Once again, this is a big problem. As you see, they are pushing this idea, not only that they were different warrior styles, but they were in fact different social classes or ranks. That is absolutely wrong from any perspective that has to do with history. As I was saying before, ninja is a job, samurai is a rank. In other words, from a real historical perspective, you can have the social rank of a samurai, and then your job is gunner, or your job is shinobi. That's how it was.
Historically, what we know factually. Historically.
This is why people, they're so stupid when in the comments tell me, it's a video game, why do you even care? They speak about historical, with that smile. Let's make sure that what they say is historical. If you appreciate my content so far and wish to help ensure my ability to continue to tell it how it is, regardless of any possible backlash, please support this channel on Patreon. Any support helps me and my team of academics keep the channel strong and gives us the means to fight back against the political rewriting of history. Stand with us, form the wall, defend the truth.
Together, Yasuke and Naoe offer the 2 sides of Assassin's Creed's classic toolset, stealth and combat. Your approach to each quest will be entirely dependent on your choice of hero.
Yeah, so your experience will be very different. Like if you enter a castle with Naoe, for sure you will take the path that lead you to your objective in the stealth way. But Yasuke you will enter by the front door and make your way through, so it's really different. But also in the more neutral zone, like just going into the city, a samurai was perceived like the high social class. So if you're with Yasuke with all your armor, like people looking at you, like...
Why is Yasuke wearing battlefield armor in a village or in the streets? The battlefield armor was worn by the samurai during battles, or in some instances during parades to show off their rank. But you wouldn't walk around like he's saying now, just wearing battlefield armor casually. That's an RPG trope. So let's not confuse that with how historical things were. Medieval knights, they would put on that full plate armor in medieval Europe during battles when they were posing for paintings, but not all the time. In special occasions, maybe with the church or when they were visiting the king, but in other situations they wouldn't. You wouldn't just walk around in full battlefield armor. That's nonsense.
You're noticeable compared to the way that
he's noticeable because he's black, by the way. He doesn't need the armor.
You're noticeable compared to the way that blend in the crowd. The thing that shine the most.
I found it interesting that they actually cut him. They cut him here. They didn't let him finish when he was saying, with Yasuke, with your armor, you're noticeable, but with Naoe, as you walk among the crowd, and then they cut him. I think they cut it because he said something really stupid, considering the fact that she's wearing the freaking sword on her back. Anyways, a woman in feudal Japan wearing a sword on her back, not noticeable in the crowd. Wonderful.
The thing that shine the most, I feel, in the Assassin's Creed, it's really the hidden blade, the assassination, being able to stay hidden. So that's the core that we want to keep. What we needed to push forward, it's to feel a bit more modern in the approach.
Oh, you did that. You did that perfectly, I think, to feel modern in feudal Japan.
Enemy perception is really impacted by everything around the world. Light and shadow has a big impact, so you can vanish in the shadow. So it's really intuitive how you play. You can destroy light.
I actually like that you can destroy light to kind of help yourself hide. That's pretty cool.
We worked a lot on enemy behavior to really interact with this environment, slicing bushes if they think you're there.
Parkour has always been something that's pretty iconic and pretty core to the stealth experience because they go hand in hand. And with Naoe especially, you'll have a lot of different moves that you can do in parkour, and also...
Yeah, parkour, I love it. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Mirror's Edge, for example, but parkour and the ninja is not a real historical connection.
Naoe's shinobi skills make her the ideal choice for players who want to get back to the series' stealth roots. She's agile, quiet, and utterly deadly, but also much weaker in a straight-up fight.
I find it funny that he says, because I agree, yes, a kunoichi would absolutely be very much weaker compared to a full-on battle-hardened samurai in a straight-up fight. It's just funny that he said it on the scene where she's single-handedly killing like 3 or 4 fully armored samurai on her own, which is of course complete fantasy.
Still has some of the low-level stealth things available for him, so he can hide in the bush. And
did he just say that Yasuke can hide in a bush? How big of a bush we're talking about? Because Yasuke was massive. Just asking. Is he doing that in samurai armor? Oh my gosh, this is so stupid.
Naoe is from Iga. She is a farmer warrior, daughter of Fujibayashi Nagato. She is a capable person, let's say that. As we were going to learn in the trailer, she will be taking on a role of protector.
All I have ever known in my life.
What we're looking at is the province of Iga, the homeland of Naoe. It's isolated a little bit in the mountains, and they were home of the shinobi. They come from here, or at least a portion of them come from here. And the interesting thing is, once we traveled to Japan and we visited this province, it came very clear how that world came together. Like, so it's sort of isolated in the mountains, sort of kept to itself. It's a very good representation, in my opinion, of that place.
Our land. Our customs. My family. Burns in the name of unification.
Yeah, this is also kind of strange because Iga and Koga, but Iga specifically, since they're mentioning this, was not this little secret small village that no one knows about. They had a very important, for example, ceramic commerce. For instance, Igayaki, which is a type of traditional Japanese pottery that originated in the Iga region of Japan. It is known for its distinctive rustic appearance, earthy colors, and unique firing techniques. Igayaki is made from a local clay that is rich in iron and other minerals, giving the pottery its signature rustic texture and earthy colors. The pottery was fired in the anagama kilns, which were wood-fired, creating interesting natural glaze effects and patterns. And this style was used to create various items including tea bowls, vases, plates, and other tableware. The tradition of Igayaki dates back to the 7th century, and it flourished during the Momoyama period, so 1568 to 1600, under the patronage of local warlords and tea masters. which led, as I say, to a massive commerce and even some major roads and trading, mercantile trading routes going exactly through Iga. So no, Iga was not a little small village hidden that no one kind of talks about and no one goes through. It was very popular for commerce.
To add to that, fighting beautiful woman is a recurrent figure in Japanese literary creations. The sun goddess Amaterasu, she can turn into a ferocious fighter. And also the tale of the Heike features Tomoe, who is a female warrior. And then she is described as a beautiful woman who is as strong as 1,000 male samurai.
Yeah, well, Tomoe Gozen is a real historical figure as far as we know, and it is true that very occasionally you do have female warriors in feudal Japan. The shogunate, however, has a great video on this that kind of discusses also the myths that are connected to the idea of, yeah, okay, but like how often did it happen that you actually had female samurai in Japan? But most importantly, of course, the part that she's also described as being as strong as 1,000 males, yet that's the myth, that's the legend. Obviously, I'd like to add.
Naoe, is kind of following the footsteps of her.
Starring opposite Naoe is the samurai warrior Yasuke. He's an important first for Assassin's Creed. Yasuke is the first time the series has ever featured a real historical person as a playable character. Naturally, the team sought out a fascinating figure for this role, the legendary Black Samurai.
We don't know if he was samurai. I'll repeat it until I'm dead. We don't know if he was a samurai.
As an outsider, first of all, as devs on the team, many of us are not Japanese, so the opportunity to come to the setting and explore the setting as Yasuke was a really awesome opportunity because a lot of players will approach the setting this way as well.
You are still a frog in a well who knows nothing of the sea.
I think that it would make sense what you're saying. I'm not against the idea of exploring Japan as an outsider. It is, however, very different from what you've done so far in all Assassin's Creed. Since in Origins you were an Egyptian, in Odyssey you were a Greek guy, so of course people are, in the third one, which is one of my favorite, you play also as a Native American among the other options. So I think that's why some people found it a little strange, but regardless, I'm not against the idea of exploring Japan as a non-Japanese. I've done it. I've moved to Japan, it was great. The only thing, it might be a little nostalgic for me, but what I don't understand is if that's what you're trying to do, then why are we seeing only Yasuke as a fully formed samurai wearing samurai armor, fighting like a Japanese samurai, which we don't know if he was a samurai. We do know that he wouldn't have fought exactly like a samurai like you're doing, and then he needs to kind of first start to grow into being accepted by the Japanese and then being given the sword. If that's how you're doing it, then I could respect it more. But if what you do is, no, he's a legendary samurai full stop, that's kind of weird. But let's see.
He was likely born in Mozambique, likely stolen as a child by the Portuguese, brought to Japan later in 1579 in their service. Also, Yasuke is somebody who is going to tie together many of the most powerful figures in our era, so he really is a great point of entry to this as well, with Oda Nobunaga on one side, the daimyo that he serves as a samurai, and on the other side, the Portuguese that he arrives with. He really does a lovely job of connecting the dots historically, what we know factually, and then narratively, we had so much fun imagining the kind of person who would have this trajectory.
Yasuke has been featured in many creative writings and media so far. There's like a long list of novels, TV series, dramas that have been inspired by him. Yeah, I think people in Japan are really embracing him as a character, and we really like to, see him representing the samurai spirit.
Well, then why is the Japanese trailer at Ubisoft Japan for this game probably one of the most disliked trailers? I think it is the most disliked trailer that I've ever got. It can't just be white people like people are accusing. It seems like some Japanese didn't like, at least some Japanese didn't like the approach.
And also a dynamic grappling hook that allows her to traverse pretty fast and reach other areas. And it's all physics based, so there's a little bit of improbability sometimes when using it. There's a danger to use it, but you can also perform assassinations from it. So it's quite spectacular when you get the hang of it and start using it.
Yes, Shinobi did not use shuriken that way, so that one too, ahistorical.
If you're facing a situation where direct force is required, then Yasuke is the perfect pick.
You can start with Yasuke, then switch to Naoe, and then go back to Yasuke. You know, that's the beauty, is like, because during a quest there are like several steps and you're going to go from one place to another. You want to have this autonomy, this player agency to choose how you want to play the setup.
He's noisier and he's not as fast, and so of course when hell breaks loose in the map and a lot of enemies are there, this is where he shines in combat. We also want the combat to feel spectacular, so quite a bit push on having a lot of the object destroyable or sliceable.
So it all started up with that fantasy of the katana. Now we can slice through door, slice props, and pretty much everything. So
well, of course, the fantasy of the katana slicing everything, I understand. Yes, of course, it's a fantasy, but I mean, you can slice with a katana a Japanese fusuma, so the actual paper doors. That is absolutely doable. I've seen a cat slice one of those doors open multiple times in Japan.
This is why also we've paid so much attention to the details of our weapon, because we know it's such a big part of a fantasy, being able to have like amazing swords in your inventory.
And the other thing, it's when we have like mini boss type of fighter, we really want it to feel like a duel. This exchange of blocking, parrying, dodging, so it's always like kind of a dance with the archetypes.
Anyways, as you can see, I'm not really sure about the sort of historians that they have. It's either they don't listen to them, or the historians don't care because they agree with the sort of political pandering that they are doing, because they are pushing politics. All of this thing about, oh no, we're just doing it because we really think that historical character Yasuke is an interesting historical character. If that were the case, then we would not have a problem. 95% of the people who are having a problem with this wouldn't have a problem. Do you know how I know that? I know that because the African samurai has been featured all over the place in anime and previous video games, and no one bat an eye. But for some reasons, these people are now complaining about Yasuke in this game. Why? Because we know that there is a massive difference. There is a difference between how video games are pushing politics now and how they weren't and were just an artistic expression then. And that's a fact. And in this specific case, we know that's what's happening. Also because the Twitter or X accounts of some of the people involved with this and the whole Sweet Baby Inc. company that is clearly politically motivated, and we can see that the people behind these choices are highly politically motivated. And whether you agree with the politics or not, let's not pretend that they're not doing it for politics. They're absolutely doing it for politics. And that is why people are mad. Exception being a very few percentage of people who are actually racists. Yes, they exist. I've seen people spelling the N-word in the comments. Yes, that's a racist person. But you can't call everyone racist just because they don't like the political pandering. Let's be honest about this. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. Many more to come.